Hi, this is Barton from Cosmodio Instruments. We have a new pedal I'd like to tell you about. It's called Glitch-Witch. It's a weird one. Glitch-Witch is an analog auto-modulated logic fuzz. Let's take this one step at a time. At its core, Glitch-Witch is a fuzz pedal, specifically a logic fuzz or a CMOS-style fuzz circuit. This is a relatively uncommon way to build a fuzz that yields this really massive, loud, fast, heavily gated, kind of glitchy sound. By wielding the gate control, the parallel clean blend, and the two-stage tone stack that give you independent control over low and high frequencies, you have a highly charismatic and versatile fuzz that's capable of heavy, scooped walls of sound, mid-focused leads, lo-fi chiptunes, game console chirps, thundering low-end bass fuzz, and voltage-starved, underbiased, vintage-sounding fuzz effects. In fact, when designing the timbre and voice of this fuzz circuit, we found a lot of inspiration in my favorite vintage-style fuzz, which is a Mark II tone bender, which is known for this really powerful, ripping, and heavily gated sound, especially when it's underbiased. Even though the circuit topology of Glitch-Witch couldn't be any more different than that pedal, it can be used to sort of re-embody that timeless classic. Things get really fun and unusual when we activate this divide mode, in which the fuzz is modulated by itself. There's no independent LFO or modulation source. Rather, the Glitch-Witch uses an analog frequency divider to generate an LFO in real time that's derived from your input signal. It takes the input signal, drops it anywhere from 1 to 8 octaves below the original, and then it feeds that divided signal back into the fuzz circuit to alter the fuzz. Now, the alteration that it produces can take the form of amplitude modulation, also called AM or ring modulation, or can be set to pulse between the original fuzz voice and a sub-octave voice, essentially becoming a crude form of frequency modulation. By selecting between different divisors, modulation behavior, and the depth of the modulation, Glitch-Witch can produce a wild variety of crazy glitched out effects. Just to name a few, sub-octave and stacked octave fuzz sounds, harmonic pitch tracking glitch. EDM synth pulses. And all sorts of rhythmic chatter chop effects. The magic of this auto-modulation or self-modulation, in which the mod source is derived directly from the input sound, is that every sound you make is going to be affected differently. Most prominently because low notes are going to want to modulate more slowly and high notes more quickly in perfect proportion with their pitch. And in this way, the glitch witch is a modern embodiment of the Rhythmicon, an instrument and concept devised in 1931 by Leon Theremin, who also created the famous instrument, the theremin. When you set the divisor to lower settings and only divide your input signal by 1 or 2 octaves, for the most part, the modulation is going to be above audio rate. And you're going to hear the sort of weird sounds it makes as like low notes, low pitches. Much higher divisor settings, it's going to divide the input frequency so far that it's going to push all that modulation below audio rate. And you're going to hear that as a rhythmic form of modulation, with each note that you play having a different rhythm. And at some divisor settings in the middle, you'll ride this really thrilling line where some notes you play, higher notes, will be modulated above audio rate, lower notes below audio rate. So you'll be moving between what sounds like pitched and rhythmic modulation effects. Now, this sounds like a lot, but Glitch Witch isn't actually about thinking about all this stuff. I just think the theory helps explain why the sounds this pedal makes are so fun and naturally delightful, because it literally plays with our perception and lights up our animal brain. But for those same reasons, when you have an instrument in hand and you're playing this pedal, Glitch Witch is just a fun, playful pedal that wants to be played and is surprisingly approachable and natural to use. And I know many of the words I've been using about glitching and pitch tracking and division and logic sound like digital concepts. So it's worth reiterating that this is a 100% analog pedal with all of the responsiveness and rough around the edges imperfections that make analog circuitry feel so alive and interactive. Even your picking technique, your playing style, which guitar or instrument you use, which pickup you select, are all going to influence the self-modulation. Dark sounds that are muted are going to produce a more stable response, and brighter sounds with more attack and more harmonic content are going to cause more harmonic confusion and are going to interact with things differently. This can be accentuated even more by pushing the voice into its third setting, which is unstable mode. In this mode, harmonic confusion is much greater. It also sort of reworks the gate knob to be a stability-instability control, and it helps you achieve even splattier, messier sounds. And if you push it hard enough, self-oscillation. Like all of our pedals, Glitch Witch is adorned by vivid artwork by Gold Suit and are lovingly handmade by our team here in Massachusetts. This pedal can be so many different things. And basically, the only thing it can't be is subtle. So get loud, get weird, make noise, and have some fun. Thanks for watching.